Don't come with that soft crap, man. It doesn't matter where you from. You got game, you got game. Come see Court Kings, man. Number one, Day King. Dunk is the light, baby.
Obadiah Richard Toppin Jr., or simply OB Toppin, born March 4th, 1998. When do you know when it's time to call a former lottery pick a bust or not? Is there a set time, or do you go by their play and if they've at least done enough for you to see their potential? For me, it's the latter. I understand circumstances whenever you do anything involving many moving parts like a basketball team. Then you add things like the business of being a pro and viewers watching every move under bright lights. When basketball becomes business for you, your perspective has to change on the game you once purely loved. When money's involved, it can either bring the best or worst out of an athlete and cause their play to either rise or be exposed. Potential is a very shaky ledge to stand on, but brings a bit of excitement at the same time. Who doesn't enjoy a gamble followed by a good win? What saves owners and GMs when betting on potential is that there's nowhere that bad to fall to. If a prospect fails, they just reload and do it again next year. Today's feature was one of those guys in the 2020 NBA draft that a lot was bet on and many thought had the potential to be a great player. All his physicals matched in that he was great height at 6'9" for his assumed position. I say assumed because I think the Knicks saw him at some point playing heavy minutes at small forward, except he doesn't create many plays for himself and hasn't found a consistent jump shot. That leaves him playing an undersized power forward. You would think that causes mismatch against other power forwards in his favor, but again, he can't or doesn't create and isn't a reliable shooter you can leave on the wing or run an important play for a deep shot. For me, I never felt OB Toppin was going to be a great pro. I've always felt like he moved like an old man, even back in college. Like, even though he was early 20s, he moved on the court like a vet past his prime. Speaking of age, he's already 24 years old in just his second year. With these things, I couldn't commit to the potential of OB Toppin, and now, after seeing him for 2 seasons, average less than 8 points, under 3 rebounds, point whatever assists, mediocre free throw shooting, abysmal 3-point shooting, can't get on the floor for one of the more disappointing teams in the NBA, and has probably the most unceremonious slam dunk victory of all time in what many call the worst slam dunk contest ever by far. He was never thought to be the next LeBron or KD, but when the Knicks took him at 8, they didn't expect him to be the 12th leading scorer on the team that started just 4 games in 2 seasons and averaged 5.8 points. 3 stunts in OB Toppin's growth that make it safe to say he's a bust. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's cut it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. OB Toppin is a 6'9" listed power forward from Brooklyn, New York. At a young age, he moved back and forth between New York and Florida, finishing at a prep school in Baltimore, Maryland. The reason for the need for prep school was because at just 6'5" at the time, when his regular scheduled high school career was finished, he had 0 offers from Division I schools. At 6'5", playing power forward, you could see why. Growing to 6'9" before prep school, he legit had dominance over that level of competition, and so in 1 year, all the schools came calling, including Georgetown and Texas Tech. He chose Dayton because it gave him the best opportunity to play right away in a conference he could shine. Stunt number 1, out of position. The first growth stunt I think holding Toppin back from living up to his draft expectations is him not being or not having the game style to be in the right position to have success going forward. Whenever going into the NBA draft, I never go into it looking at production alone. Of course, stats draw you into a player, but more important to me is what a guy's physicals matched with what position did he play and will play in the NBA. To me, this is the biggest hurdle between the amateur and the pro game. You can do all the dominating you want against guys in high school that 98% won't ever play professional basketball or even be in sports in general as adults. You can do the same in college against guys more concerned with what frat to join or beer pong table to build than life after basketball all you want. But I'm always projecting a player for when he gets to the NBA, what position he'll be at. Can he dominate that position? And who will he be matching up against? The power forward is underratedly one of the toughest positions to be suited for because it takes a lot to be great at. You have to have a size dominance or fighter's personality, a high motor, meaning you run, fight, and can out-hustle just about anyone on the floor, and you have to have a jump shot along with finesse to hit the mid-range off the pick and roll or slide through tight seams to the basket for an easy lob. With that said, elite athleticism is also key. Nowadays, you also have to have a deep shot that can stretch the floor and create open lanes for drivers on your team. OBI TOPPIN at his size, toughness, and IQ doesn't meet those requirements. If you've played high school basketball, you remember consistently seeing 6'5" guys playing in the post, as rarely at that stage you have guys with adequate height for big spots like 4 and 5. So, the tallest guy in the school is usually called on. 6'5" compared to a regular Joe is very tall. I think Obi was trapped in that position where he was taught young to play the power forward, and his mechanics since then have been set to that. Which is why he moves like an awkward big man, but at now small forward height and weight. He got away with it because again, the amateur level is vastly different from the pros. A great example of a guy who successfully made the transition from post to wing is Aaron Gordon. Once a borderline all-star in Orlando that changed his game to play on the wing, and it's brought him success. He still has hints of being out of position though, but not more than OBI TOPPIN. Stunt number 2, what else does he do? Other than being totally out of position, what does he do that you can rest your hat on and say, okay, one day I can see this being highly successful? He doesn't score well at any of the 3 levels, post, mid-range, 3, and is not even adequate at those things for the 8th pick of the draft by the most popular team in all sports. What he does do well though is he runs the floor in transition like not many in the league and can finish at the rim just as well. If the game was about how good you are in transition only, TOPPIN would be all NBA, but it's not. He doesn't rebound at 6'9", averaging just 2.9 for his career. He doesn't shoot the ball well from anywhere except close to the basket, which boosts his field goal percentage deceptively. He doesn't defend well down low for the obvious reasons of him being too skinny and short at the 4 and 5. No post-game mechanics that work at that level, and is sometimes a black hole on the Knicks, taking bad shot after bad shot that ends in bricks or even air balls from deep. Not saying he's completely worthless, but if I take a guy 8th in the draft, I expect him to at least do more than one thing substantially well on the floor. Unfortunately, other than transition, Obi does not. Stunt number 3, potential. And finally, I think what hurts OBI TOPPIN, and has since he entered the league as an older prospect, is the lack of potential I see in him thus far. In just his second year, he turned 24 years old, while most second-year players nowadays are all but 20, 21. But not just age. What potential you place stock in when a guy averages 4 points a game, then follows that up with 7 points a game in a second year? Where could you see that player fitting into what it is you want to do or have planned going forward? Yes, he was the 8th pick, so you have or had many ideas for him in the scope of your team's future, and you're stuck with him for at least 4 years, but still I ask, who can OBI TOPPIN become as an NBA pro? Sadly, I don't see it being a player that lives up to the hype the Knicks created around him as the hometown kid that would save the franchise. He should have fit in great with Julius Randle. Instead, he seems like another Kevin Knox. wasted draft pick, only good for transition finishes and mediocre dunk contests. Maybe he figures it out and ends up being a Hall of Famer? Nah. All in all, Toppin may still have value on another team, but box office, 8th pick, New York Knicks talent, I never saw it, and for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect, it's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.